Hey gang, it's Kevin here, Life22. It's another beautiful day. It's the same beautiful day as the previous podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, it's about our show expansion. But anyways, if you're just tuning into the show, we are live here from Olean, New York. Well, won't be. I'm live currently as I'm recording, if that counts. As you can hear, there's beautiful birds outside. It is February still. It is the end of February. And there's a bird outside. It's great. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful morning. And so with that, I'd like to listen to the bird for a second. Oh, okay. No, rabbit hole. So if you're just listening to the show, we just announced that we are now expanding to doing audio only as well. So you'll still get your favorite vlog, your favorite video podcast with Kevin on YouTube, but you can also check out the audio version on transistor.fm, and from there it'll distribute out to all your favorite places: Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Google Cast. Um, it'll be on Spreaker and all the indexes and Spotify. I think I said that one already. Apple Podcast. You name it, it's most likely there, and you get to hear this beautiful, not quite that beautiful songbird voice, but you'll hear my beautiful songbird voice. If Brad Garrett became that songbird, it probably would have a voice like me, because I'm pretty sure like the low end of it would this would be like the lowest. Anyways, more rabbit holes from your favorite ADHD host, Kevin Doherty here. And so what I want to do is I want to kick off. Most of you out there probably love football, right? Most of my local Oleanders got pissed off when the Bills didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and it was so close, and you're like, curses you Bills. And that was exciting and all, but I don't get into football um like I do politics. Local politics specifically. I enjoyed watching the national stuff. I had a team I rooted for. I ate popcorn. I sat around on election night watching coverage, and like I went out and voted. I got to participate. You know what I mean? That's like tailgating. There is tailgating that goes on with elections. It's just really cool stuff. And my favorite is the local politics, because local politics gets really into the weeds and it affects you directly. And you can get involved. You can be a player on the field. Like, you can be a coach. You can be a season ticket holder. Um, you could donate to the team. You can buy merch. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that just makes it so much like national sports. And that's one of my favorite parts. So this episode is specifically talking about our local politics. We have this year is a mayoral race, um, and then we have aldermen that are up. Uh, Wards 2, 4, 6, and 7 are all up this year. I believe they did the divvy on the alderman races based on population of the wards, not square footage. Uh, and they kind of stuck with even numbers, and then they're like, well, there's still like, it was like, I think it was must have been awfully you know off base, and so they decided to switch it and lump 7 in there too, which I believe 7 has the largest next to 7, or next to 6 and 7, I believe, are the largest land size, but population size, I don't believe 7 uh has a large population. I think it's mostly like land. Where 6 has a large square footage, and it's like not as densely populated as like 4, but because I believe 4 is the smallest, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look at a map, but anyways, going down another rabbit hole there, guys. So this is a mayoral race, and this stuff is awesome, right? So um as most of you know, I'm a registered Republican. I've been a Republican since I was a little kid. My dad was Republican. It's kind of like it's like being Catholic. Um, I was baptized Republican. uh, you know, the yeah, no, I remember being a little kid, and my dad would like we had Bob Dole signs in our yard, and just Art Peitler for mayor. Like this is you know New Milford, Connecticut. And I remember we had Village Fair Days, which was our like local fair that we would have downtown, and you'd get like traveling vendors, but you'd still have your local vendors and local shops, and then you had people from outlying areas that had shops, and people from 3 or 4 towns over that had shops, and they would come. And then the Republicans and the Dems, they all had their own. They had their own infighting. They had their own feuds against each other, and they also had their own booths at the Village Fair Days. And being a little kid, we as kids, we used to walk around and get free stuff, right? They would hand out free tote bags and free pens. You could go to the charter communication booth and get free pencils. Oh man, it was a blast. And I remember being a little kid, and my dad was, I don't believe, at one point he may have been the head of the Republican committee in town. He was the chairman of the Board of Finance, which was an elected position, and he got it like 18 years running or something like that. It was a large span of time. My mom sat on the Board of Education, which back then it was political, as it should have been, because there is an election involved, and politics are downstream of culture. And we'll get more into that into this show. Um, because these shows are my rant, so we'll go down rabbit holes. And if there's anything that you ever want me to stop and specify on, I know these are recorded, so you're not going to get me to stop mid-show. But what I can do is I can always I can reply to comments and or do a show that talks about the topic that you're like, can you give us a little bit more information on this or that? Or what are your thoughts on why school boards are political, even though people are like, oh, you got to keep the politics out of school. It's no, that's well, that's because if we keep one side will keep the politics out of school and the other side won't. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you just putting politics into school. It's like, no, no, no. You've changed the culture of the school, and now we're seeing the politics of it, because politics are downstream from culture, as Andrew Breitbart once said. Or not just once, but many times. Oh, so that all said, you ready for it, folks? Okay. Oh, so this we have the incumbent for the mayoral race is William J. Alio, and he's been, Jesus, what is this? This would be his 5th term, I believe. They're 4-year stints, um, and uh, and he's looking for reelection. And then um, I want to advise everybody that, like, if you're watching social media, you're listening to social media, like the pulse that you get from like a Facebook group or Facebook in general is not the pulse of a race. Like if you look, like every race that I've ever won, you would have thought that I was gonna just get my butt handed to me and I would win handily if you based it on social media. Um and so and if you base the race that the last race that I was in, that I actually anticipate I knew I probably wouldn't win, and you'd think, and you're like, I was hopeful, but it was one of those, if you looked at social media, you'd been like, oh man, Kevin's got these guys in the bag. And it's like, social media is a zero sum predictor of how political elections are going to go. So I just want to throw that out there right now. Um, they're a good way to see information on a candidate if you're interested. It's a way to get the word out there. But the people that you see and the infighting in the comment section, that is one person's opinion, and it usually is, as Richard Nixon said, not the silent majority, right? So the silent majority is a group of people who don't typically voice their opinions. They have opinions, they keep them to themselves. That is most people. That is like public speaking. It is the same reason that most people are afraid of public speaking. There's a lot of people that have opinions, and they'll express their opinion one on one with you, but they will not express their opinion to the paper, out in public. That's like, there's a lot of people that just will not. They just won't do it. They don't want other people to think differently of them because of their opinion, which I don't agree with. I don't think that's an appropriate approach to life. But some people just like to keep their head down and live their life, and that's very much what you'll see. And then you just see these. You'll either see anywhere from a range of very opinionated people to complete wackadoos just posting online, and then you're like, oh man, this is gonna be the downfall of this person or that person. So, but there's different ways to judge the pulse of a candidate or a candidacy or a current administration and things like that. Um, I do know that I was speaking with somebody the other day, and they said, like the longer you're in politics, you don't really gain more friends. The longer you're in it, you only have a tendency to develop enemies. So, with that said, I do think that uh, the incumbent Bill Aleo is going to have a tough race ahead of him every time he's going to run from after his first run. It eventually it gets more progressively worse because that enemy pile builds up, and that's something to consider. In the last couple races, like he like I'm pretty sure he ran unopposed. Well, I say unopposed. He ran unopposed last time, and it was only because like the people that were running were like newbies. They had no idea how to do the political circuit. They didn't have any support structure to teach them how to do it. They don't understand the way things get done. You go door to door, like you do these things. They didn't do it. They just figured social media was going to carry them through, and how sorely mistaken they were. So, but I do want to point out, like you've got that. Um, you have that, and then you also have so I think so. Bill's running on the Republican ticket, and then on Monday there was a release by Amy Sherburne, and I want to say so. I was going to say Amy Black Sherburne. So her name, her maiden name is Black. They owned Eads Wallpaper, um, and they were her parents were constituents of mine. I never had an issue with. Well, I mean, there's always issues, right? Like you get a complaint and somebody doesn't think you're doing their complaint fair enough, or you poll a neighborhood and you know somebody's opinion doesn't match the majority, and then you just go with the majority opinion of your guidance on what you should do as their elected official, and then people are speak their voice about it, but it is what it is. Anyways, no, so I knew her parents. They were good people. Things like that. I think I spoke to her once, maybe. She owned Union Tea for a while, which was like an incubator project on North Union Street. And she's running on the Republican line, and it gets spicier because she's running as she's been cross endorsed by the Democrats, and um, so she's going to be forcing Bill, and depending on petitions, if everybody gets a petition out there, anybody who's running, if they get a petition and they get enough signatures and a healthy amount above the bare minimum, and so that you can't contest any signatures that are on it, any duplicates, things like that, they won't throw out your petition. If your petition passes, you would force a primary. So, and essentially, you could force a primary with any registered member of that party could force a primary. Um, and so that's uh and even if you are endorsed by an opposing party, you still have to get their petition signatures done. So that's a little caveat there. So um just very exciting stuff. And then I think it was Tuesday evening, um I caught word that Jared Eisman is now running on the Republican ticket, or at least he announced his candidacy. And um, Jared is a firefighter with the city of Olean, so he's most likely he's probably going to try to get the backing of the fire the firefighters and their families and the possible union, which is union endorsements are always tough to get. But it's one of those things. 'Cause sometimes they want to stay out of it. Like if you lose, we're just going to get like vilified by the next administration because people think there's a lot more grudges than there are. And you know but So Jared's running. He's running on a Republican ticket, which means it's going to be a three-way primary if all three contenders um, bring their petitions to the table. So that's going to add some levity, and it definitely, like when you have more competition, it definitely makes this exciting. So no matter who I want to win, and I'll give you guys my political takes, not in this episode, but because we've also been in contact with a lot of different candidates, and before we formally have anybody on the show, I want to make sure every candidate in every race has the opportunity to speak, and we'll be doing one-on-one. Um, be doing one-on-one interviews. Maybe we'll host a debate. As given that we are the only besides the news, the newspaper or the online papers, we're the only like actual um, you know news channel in Olean. So um, these are all the exciting things that are coming up, and it's very exciting for me because while I might have my opinion on an episode of this channel, I will also be doing fair, good questioning. I'll try to keep the bias out of it. My goal is to not be like, you know, how the legacy media decides to give you their spin. If I'm going to give you if I give you my opinion in in one episode, I can give you my opinion on it, but when it comes to interviewing the candidate and asking the questions, I want to try to keep that as unbiased as possible. So this year also in Cattaraugus County we have a district attorney's race. Up until yesterday, the district attorney's race was one-sided, or was two-sided. There was Ashley Smith, who seems to be the party who seemed to be the party favorite amongst the elected officials in office at the county level. And then there was Preston Marshall, who, if any of you read the Olean Star article yesterday, um, and then you became aware of it, he had a fall at his home, and um, he had like a spine injury or a neck injury, and so he's got surgery, he's got recovery, and he's just like, you know what, getting 2,000 signatures, trying to do, walk door to door, get my name out there. I would be doing the people a disservice by allowing, by doing something, by trying to run. And while there were a lot of people that have actually approached me about having him on the show, and I told them the invitation still stands to come on the show, um, because there seems to be a bit of a conundrum here with just the politics of it. Um, and there's a lot of people on either side, right? So even if you have a candidate who's unopposed, you're still going to have people that don't like that candidate. They just don't. They You're not going to change their mind, right? Um, you're always going to have that person who loves Trump, the person who hates Trump, the person who thinks, doesn't like Joe Biden, the person who loves Joe Biden. It's one of those. You're just always going to have it. So, anyways, back into the Olean mayoral races. And actually, well, before we jump back into that, let me go right into what we have for the alderman races. So we have two right now. The current alderman is Jason Panis, and I believe he is stepping down. This is his final year, so in December 31st, he will no longer be um, the alderman, and whoever wins the November election will take um, office. He uh, I was going to say, so as of right now, I don't believe there's any formal candidate for the Republicans. Um, the Democrats have been pretty close to the vest on their alderman candidates. So unless they're an incumbent, I haven't been privy to the names that have been released, but I will be doing more research into that. And all of these aldermen will also be getting, a spot on the show to tell me, what, if you are the incumbent, tell me what you've done. If you are, is there things you're going to do? Are you going to add? How are you going to change this and that of the local politics? We also have extended invitations to currently sitting aldermen who maybe don't have a race up. And the temperature of the room is that a lot of them are interested in transparency, and let's have a conversation and let's talk about it. Um, so everybody will be getting interviewed on the show, uh, and talked to, and what are your takes? What upcoming projects? This is local politics. We want to know about it, right? And then that also, just like knowing your sports team, knowing who's got an injury, knowing who's any of this stuff. That's you're going to have those times where you're just going to um it gives you a better feel, right? So whether whether you have money on the race or not, you know what I mean, like it lets you know how your team is going to do. And and it's all about the training, it's all about the legwork, getting out there and going door to door. So but that's Ward 2. Ward 4, that's my stomping grounds, that's my alma mater. That's where I currently reside, is Ward 4. And right now is Sonia McCall, who uh, she's on the Democratic Party, and um, she proceeded. Yes, she proceeded me. So versus preceded. Yes, she proceeded me. So she came after I had stepped down. Um, there was like a fill in. I believe Steve Barnard stood in while I had stepped down, and then she won the next race. And I'm trying to think what else there was. She's got. I don't believe the Republicans have a candidate yet. Obviously, she's the incumbent, so she'd be the Democratic candidate. Um, and then let's see, Ward 6 used to be Nate Smith. That's the, like, the legacy of Ward 6 was the Nate Smith legacy, at least in my era. And then he stepped down, was replaced by like two or three different replacements throughout the time. They just stepped down for whatever reason or another. And then um and then Vernon Robinson got selected, and he's been holding on to it ever since. I believe this will be his. So he was appointed, he won, he won again. I believe this. So this will be his third election that he's actually his. It'll be over his fourth. It'll be going into his fourth term, because you still have that placeholder. It won't be a full term, but he's got that partial term beforehand. So I believe this would be his third time actually running and being elected. And he is an independent. So people say this is a misnomer. People say independent, right? Like, I am independent. Well, but then there was, for the longest time in New York, an independence party. So people would select independents thinking that they were independent. I can't remember if he is an OP, a no official party, um, or if he is a party affiliate, or if he has an independence party affiliation. Which the independence party on the last major election was kind of disbanded. So you only had like the working families. You had Republicans, Democrats, of course, and then you had conservatives, and the libertarians fell off a lot. They got knocked off in the last gubernatorial race, the second to last gubernatorial race. They got knocked off to the libertarians, and now the libertarians fell off during the last gubernatorial race. And so I believe there is another party. There's always like four or five of them. But but I know he typically gets the support, and I believe he is the Democratic incumbent, or the Democratic endorsement as the incumbent. I don't believe he has a party affiliation. And then I know he was seeking the Republicans, and I don't believe the Republicans have a candidate named yet. And then we'll be diving into that one as well. And then we also have Ward 7, which is Dave Anastasia, um, and he's the Democratic incumbent. So then you have the Democrats incumbent, and then you have the Republicans. I don't believe have chosen a candidate to run or cross endorse in Ward 7. So those are the alderman races. And then to get back to the mayoral race. So yesterday, I want to say morning, late Tuesday evening, if you count that, is um, a Democratic candidate came forward. It was Robert Buchanan, or as we like to call him, Bobby the Cannon Buchanan. Most of you probably know Bobby. He was a fighter. He got into jujitsu fighting and UFC fighting, and Bobby made it to a UFC match, and he knocked the guy out in one punch. That's why they call him Bobby the Cannon Buchanan. Obviously, um, just like Dana White and everybody else, you start having, like, health deterioration issues, and you can't just beat yourself or let other people beat you up forever. So Bobby no longer is a UFC fighter, and he is the water distribution meter guy for the city. He heads up that division for the city, and I know he put his hat in the ring yesterday as a Democratic candidate, which is also very exciting because Amy Sherburne is authorized on that line if she gets her petition signatures, but she's not a Dem. So, which means that, like, because she was already authorized, she's entitled to hold that, um, even being a non-candidate. They can't, like, rescind it now because of the process. So Bobby is now, if he gets his signatures in, would force a primary between a Republican and a Democrat on the Democratic primary, which is kind of, it's spicy. This is the stuff that, man, I just get into. This is just super spicy. It is fun. Um so that said, um that's what's coming up, guys. So those are the news releases. We'll get I'm sure we'll have more updates tomorrow We'll get some more invitations out there, more candidates to come with us, and we'll see you guys next time on Life 22. Uh, this is Kevin signing out, and would this be in the political race? First and down, maybe. All right, guys. See you next time.